Let's finish off the slate. We have got the Eagles at the Seahawks, 47.5 over under. This feels like this could be a blow-up game to round out week 15 and potentially cause some joy or some heartbreak, depending on which way you fall in those fantasy matchups in the Monday night game. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, well, both teams rank bottom 4 in terms of like fantasy points allowed to the position. They just can't to wide receivers. They just can't stop wide receivers at the minute. Philly, they allow a league high 26.4 points to opposing slot receivers. Is this going to be the spot where we see the Jackson Smith-Njigba breakout game? Does it exist? Can he get there? Because in my eyes, he's passed Tyler Lockett already in the pecking order. He's at 18 targets in the last 2 games. DK Metcalf, his behavior is a problem. Teams like Kyle Shanahan apparently had talked to the Niners about how they knew they were going to wind up DK Metcalf. And then he gets ejected. But he's a fringe wide receiver too, because when he's not scoring touchdowns, he just isn't getting there. It's been really disappointing trying to deal with DK Metcalf in managed leagues this year. I think it would be nice to just see a little more consistency. It felt like maybe we were getting there, and then last week, kind of duds again. But against this Eagles team, he should definitely have avenues to success. I really like the pass catchers on both sides. I think you look at Devonta Smith. Last week, he had a huge game in terms of target share, 35%, which was the worry with Dallas Goedert coming back. Was it going to just disappear completely in front of our faces? But he was there. Both teams rank bottom 5 in DVOA against wide receiver 2. So maybe this is a game where we see both Devonta Smith getting there, both Jackson Smith-Njigba getting there. AJ Brown, it hasn't been particularly pretty. He's not been a top 10 wide receiver since week 9. But I feel like he can get right in this spot. I think, Jamal Adams has shown that he's not particularly good at covering players, and AJ Brown is going to take advantage of that. DeAndre Swift has been disappointing of late. He's averaging 0.7 points per touch compared to 0.9 over the first 6 games of the season. He had 400-yard games in the first 5, and he's had 1 since. I hate to say it, but I don't think you can start DeAndre Swift in a conventional league. If you've got a deep roster, perhaps you can. And the same for Kenneth Walker. I mean, he averaged 2.6 yards per carry last week. Zach Charbonnet lost touches to him. But Zach Charbonnet has seen enough of those high-value touches, but it's just dinged Kenneth Walker's value. I mean, he's a great running back, but he's just not really doing it for performances. And the big question mark for me is, what do we see from Jalen Hurts? So week 1 to 6, we saw 42 rush yards per game. Week 7 to 14, 29. Like I mentioned earlier, that's like Trevor Lawrence territory. That's Joe Burrow territory. That is not Jalen Hurts. Since he got the bone bruise on his knee, he just does not seem as comfortable as he did last year. But this is a matchup where teams have been destroying the Seahawks at times, and I'd like to see the Eagles really stomp on them to show us what kind of playoff team they can be.
Yeah, I think you hit the perfect point there. Jalen Hurts isn't healthy, and I think it's one of these things. We heard it was the bone bruise, and you sort of think, right, that's a 3 to 4 week injury. He can play, but he'll kind of be limited. It's taken longer than that. He didn't look healthy moving last week. I wonder if it's a little bit more serious than perhaps they've let on, and it's lingering longer. But let's be honest, this matchup, I think the Eagles, they feel slightly wounded, having had some tough games, some tough losses. But I think they need to come out a little bit more rest Monday night and really put their claim on the NFC. I think this could potentially propel them back up to top of the NFC East. And look, I want to start every single one of the wide receivers and quarterbacks in this matchup. I've got all 5 of the wide receivers in my top 40. I've got, so much invested in hopefully this being a shootout, because I've got quite a few shares of the wide receivers. But I really think that for me, I'm not touching those running backs. I've not got Swift, Walker, Charbonnet, none of them in my top 20 this week. It just feels like this is a game that you're almost saying all the wide receivers and quarterbacks, yes, all the tight ends, all the running backs, I want no part of. And that rounds it off. That is the Week 15 slate in a nutshell. Remember, hit the like, hit the subscribe, get those questions in the comments below. Tom and I will be answering them all week long. We'll be back. Tom will have his DFS show. I will, of course, have the game day video prepped, ready for you to set those lineups on the weekend. But it is playoff time. Best of luck this week. Let's get through to the semifinals and hopefully bring home those championships. Best of luck, and we'll see you soon.